Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is Explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 176 based on novel. So let's start. Yarrow Laro slowly nodded when he saw the sudden change in Xiao Yang's expression. He said, rather, it should be said that the entire northwestern region of the continent is in trouble. What happened? Xiao Yang knit his eyebrows. The northwestern continent did not have as many experts as the central plains. There might be an uncountable number of sects and empires, but all of them were ultimately in dispute with each other. Although some strong factions intended to dominate everyone, they were ultimately unable to achieve their aim. Moreover, the so-called strong factions in the northwestern region of the continent would only be Tier 1 factions in the central plains. They would not be any stronger than the 4 pavilion factions. Hence, some of the factions and experts within the central plains did not place much importance on any other region. Originally, the northwestern continent was not in turmoil, but a year ago, a faction known as the Profound Lion sect suddenly began to engage in a large-scale war. No one was a match for the experts from the sect. Within less than half a year, nearly half of the northwestern continent ended up under the control of the Profound Lion sect. Yarrow Laro slowly landed on a mountain as he softly explained. Profound Lion sect. Are they very strong? Xiao Yang frowned and asked. Although the northwestern continent did not have as many hidden experts as the central plains, it was an extremely large stretch of land and there were naturally many Dozun class experts. However, relying on the strength of a sect to occupy half of the northwestern continent was something that would cause others to feel some disbelief. Although the Profound Lion sect can be ranked among the top 10 in the northwestern continent, it is not unbeatable. This time around, their strength suddenly soared. Moreover, they gained many powerful mysterious experts, Yarrow Laro replied in a faint voice. There is some other mysterious faction interfering in the northwestern region of the continent. Xiao Yang was startled. The factions in the central plains were extremely strong, but they ultimately looked down on the other parts of the continent that were not part of the central plains. Hence, rarely would factions interfere in the matters of other regions. After all, these areas were extremely chaotic, and even if they could secretly control the regions, it would not benefit them. They might end up losing more than they would gain. Hall of Souls. Xiao Yang frowned. Suddenly he saw Yarrow Laro's solemn expression. His heart shook as he made a guess. That's right, Yarrow Laro nodded. He continued, based on the situation that was transmitted back, many Hall of Souls experts have indeed appeared with the Profound Lion sect. Why would the Hall of Souls have nothing better to do than to head to the northwestern region of the continent and stir up such a big war? Gathering souls, the factions in the central plains are interrelated and complicated. Even the Hall of Souls would not dare to easily start a big war, but the situation is different in the northwestern continent. Given the strength of the Hall of Souls, it is dominant enough to wage a one-sided war. All they need to do is appear after the battle and collect a countless number of souls. Yarrow Laro knit his brows and explained the situation. Why are they anxiously using such a method to gather spiritual bodies now? In the past, the Hall of Souls would only quietly gather souls. They have never started a big war before. Xiao Yang asked uncertainly. The Hall of Souls definitely has many schemes to gather souls. However, I am also uncertain of the reason. Back then, they only wanted me to join them after capturing me. I am aware that they are interested in my alchemist skills. All I can do is refine medicinal pills, but the overwhelming and mysterious strength of the Hall of Souls chief requires a Tier 9 medicinal pill. However, it is not easy to refine such a medicinal pill. Yarrow Laro softly sighed and replied. Xiao Yang's heart had become a little heavy for some unknown reason after hearing Yarrow Laro's soft sigh. Although he was not aware what the Hall of Souls was planning, he was certain that they were definitely preparing for a great scheme. Otherwise, why would they gather so many souls? Moreover, they had clearly increased their gathering rate. Could it be that they could not endure any longer? Hun Clan, just what exactly are you planning? The northwestern continent is in chaos and the Profound Lion sect continues to expand their territory. Those who do not submit to them would have their sect or empire destroyed. This has undoubtedly greatly increased the speed at which the Hall of Souls are gathering spiritual bodies. The quality might not be high, but they can make up for it with quantity. Yarrow Laro glanced at Xiao Yang as he said, as for your Yang alliance, it has already become a powerful alliance that could be ranked among the top 3 of the northwestern continent after being developed by Medusa and the rest during these years. Normally speaking, the Profound Lion sect is no match for the Yang alliance. Unfortunately, there is the addition of the Hall of Souls. With the aid of the experts from the Hall of Souls, the Yang alliance can only end up at a disadvantage. A couple of months ago, the territory of the Yang alliance shrank. They are gradually shrinking back toward the Jiomar Empire. We have also obtained news about it at that time. The little fairy doctor and the rest hurried to the Jiomar Empire after obtaining this news. Qing Tan also followed because the fate of the Sky Serpent Mansion is similarly quite bad. Xiao Yang's expression was gloomy. This damn Hall of Souls never stopped causing trouble for even a moment. I have also dispatched some experts from the Falling Star Pavilion to follow the little fairy doctors group when they left. However, I think that they will find it difficult to handle the situation. Xiao Yang nodded. He clenched his hand and said, looks like I will also have to hurry back. The Yang Alliance had Medusa, his big brother, second brother, and all the members of the Xiao clan. Hence, he needed to reveal himself when the Yang Alliance faced such trouble. Yarrow Larrow was unsurprised when he heard Xiao Yang's words. He nodded slightly and said, this time around, I will dispatch some elders from the Falling Star Pavilion, who are 5-star Dozans, with you when you head to the Jiomar Empire. Moreover, they are privy to more information than you. They will help you understand the situation of the northwestern continent. I will personally remain in the Falling Star Pavilion to guard against any Hall of Souls schemes of diverting our strength away. Xiao Yang hesitated for a moment before nodding. We will put the matter of the purifying demonic lotus flame aside for now. In any case, there's still some time before the spatial trade fair begins. Before that, we must resolve the trouble of the Yang Alliance. Yarrow Larrow smiled and continued. Don't rush and leave today. The Central Plains region and the northwestern continent are too far apart. You would need over 2 months to fly back. Hence, we must build a wormhole. Xiao Yang was startled when he heard this. A wormhole was something that could be built by anyone who had reached the Dozan class. However, building a lengthy wormhole that stretched from Central Plains to the northwestern continent was not something that an ordinary Dozan could achieve. Fortunately, Yarrow Larrow's strength was currently at the Ban Sheng class. It should not be too difficult to build. I used a temporarily wormhole to send the little fairy doctors group away. Since then, I have been preparing a stable wormhole. Once it is successfully built, it will become a pathway that connects the Falling Star Pavilion to the northwestern continent. Once you take over the Falling Star Pavilion in the future, the Falling Star Pavilion and the Yang Alliance will merge, Yarrow Larrow laughed. Xiao Yang nodded and sighed in relief. If they could really build a wormhole that connected to the northwestern continent, it would undoubtedly save him a great deal of time. Rest for today. You have been tired during this period of time, Yarrow Larrow spoke with a smile. Xiao Yang did not reject the offer. He nodded before suddenly recalling something. After which, he took the emerald jade token that Yarrow Xingji had given him out of his storage ring and handed it to Yarrow Larrow. This is the Yarrow ceremony, clan ceremony, invitation of the Yarrow clan. They asked me to hand it to teacher. Yarrow Larrow's hand immediately trembled when he heard the words Yarrow ceremony, clan ceremony, ... Although it was minor, it did not escape Xiao Yang's eyes. Yarrow Larrow's eyes stared at the emerald jade token. It was a long time later before he inhaled a deep breath of air. His hand trembled as he slowly received it. Finally, he put it in his storage ring and softly said, "Don't be concerned about this matter. We should build the wormhole." Xiao Yang nodded. Although Yarrow Larrow did not display much on his face, Xiao Yang could still sense that Yarrow Larrow's heart was not calm. It seems that teacher will not reject this Yarrow ceremony, clan ceremony, invitation just as Yarrow Xingji had claimed. I wonder just what this Yarrow ceremony is to cause Yarrow Larrow to show such a reaction. Yarrow Larrow merely smiled when he saw Xiao Yang's flickering eyes, but he did not explain about the Yarrow ceremony. He gently patted Xiao Yang's shoulders and laughed. Leave, go back to your room and rest. It is likely that this half a year has not been relaxing. I would like to allow you to rest properly for some time. Xiao Yang shook his head in an unconcerned manner. He was used to running around after years of training. One must ultimately pay in order to protect things. However, the thing that caused Xiao Yang to feel a little pleased was that the current him was not like himself from back when he needed Yarrow Larrow's help in order to do anything. Now, he was a true top-tier expert who could carry his own weight. Once I finish building the wormhole, you will be able to travel to the northwestern region of the continent. Haha, now that I think about it, it has been many years since you left. It is time to return and take a look, Yarrow Larrow spoke in a somewhat harsh tone. When Xiao Yang had left the Jiomar Empire for the first time back then, he had been a tender youth. The youth from back then has become a renowned top-notch expert across the continent. Xiao Yang quietly nodded. His heart also felt a sense of lose. Without realizing it, he had been away from the Jiomar Empire for many years. He wondered just how Big Brother, Second Brother, and the rest had been during these years, especially Medusa. If that's how much time had passed, it was likely his child was already 4 or 5 years old. If that's the case, it seems that I have become a father. A special feeling involuntarily rose within Xiao Yang's heart when he thought of this. It was as though his heart had matured once again at this moment. Northwest part of the continent instead. Xiao Yang's subsequent days after returning to the Falling Star Pavilion had become a lot more relaxing. He stayed in the Falling Star Pavilion all day and would occasionally appear to give advice to the disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion. Forget about the ordinary disciples. With his current strength and reputation, it was likely that the experience of even some guest elders in the Falling Star Pavilion might not be able to compare to him. 3 days slowly passed amid this feeling of leisure. The wormhole that Yarrow Larrow was building gradually neared completion. Many Falling Star Pavilion disciples were gathered in a spacious training ground in the Star Realm. They were undertaking training and sparring that they had to perform daily. However, most of the eyes in the training ground were gathered on the middle of the training ground. A young man in black robes was pointing out the inadequacies of some disciples when they unleashed their Do skills. His laughing and relaxed appearance vaguely gave him the look of a grandmaster. Many Falling Star Pavilion's disciples felt envious in their hearts as they watched him. A group of young ladies, who were wearing tight brilliant clothes, had gathered in one corner of the training ground. They were laughing with each other. Their lovely wind chime-like laughter caused the hearts of some surrounding men to shake. Their eyes were involuntarily thrown over. There was a lady in pale red clothes standing in the middle of this group of young ladies. Her delicate and soft waist with her long legs undoubtedly caused her to be the most eye-catching existence within the training ground. However, this red-clothed young lady's eyes were observing the smiling black-clothed young man in the distance. He, little senior sister Yuquan is finally attracted to someone. A young lady by the side suddenly laughed in a delicate voice while the lady in red was focusing on Xiao Yang. What nonsense are you spouting? Hearing this, the face of that young lady called Yuquan reddened as she chided. Little senior sister Yuquan, you are the person with the most outstanding talent among this younger generation of the Falling Star Pavilion. Even the pavilion chief was disturbed during the test back then. Therefore, you need not feel inferior despite the unique status of the junior pavilion chief. A young lady covered her mouth and laughed. What nonsense. This little talent of mine is nothing in the eyes of the junior pavilion chief. Yuquan shook her head, but a faint joy flashed across her bright eyes. A young lady ultimately yearned for love. The young geniuses she had met, who thought highly of themselves, were nothing compared to Xiao Yang, who did not put on the airs of a junior pavilion chief. Why doesn't little senior sister ask junior pavilion chief for advice? You will only have a chance if you come into contact with him. Otherwise, there will be no hope. A young lady urged. Yuquan hesitated for a moment upon hearing this. She softly said, "It's not very suitable, right? What should we do if we disturb young pavilion chief? It's fine. Little senior sister is someone our Falling Star Pavilion needs to groom. The junior pavilion chief will definitely not find it troublesome for the sake of strengthening the Falling Star Pavilion. Stop pushing. I will go all right." Xiao Yang studied the small red face of the red-clothed young lady standing on the training ground in front of him. He smiled and asked, "You are called Yuquan, right? I heard teacher mention you." Xiao Yang's eyes observed this young lady in front of him while he spoke. Although this young lady appeared a little young, she was undoubtedly a perfect beauty. Once she grew up, she would definitely become a little witch that would cause a countless number of men to risk themselves for her. Of course, her appearance was not what Xiao Yang valued. Instead, it was her outstanding training talent. A young lady who was not even 17 was still at a budding age, but this Yuquan had already stepped into the Do Wang class. Even within the Central Plains, obtaining such an achievement at this age was outstanding. If she was given sufficient time, her achievements would be frightening. No wonder teacher has reminded me time and again. If his elderly self had not decided that he would not accept any other disciples, this Yuquan would have become my little junior. Xiao Yang's eyes flickered. He finally understood why Yarrow Larrow had mentioned something about Yuquan to him a couple of days earlier. Yuquan immediately nodded when she learned that Xiao Yang was aware of her name. Her thin delicate face was covered with some excitement. "Junior Pavilion Chief, may I take some of your time to give me some advice?" Yuquan's face reddened. However, she still summoned her courage and uttered these words. "Practice your skills in front of me." Xiao Yang smiled and softly replied. "Understood." Yuquan's small heart quietly pounded when she experienced Xiao Yang's gentleness. She hurriedly displayed a palm do skill that she had recently practiced. Xiao Yang by the side stood with his hands behind him. He watched Yuquan unleash a DI class palm technique in an extremely smooth fashion, causing him to involuntarily nod. He pointed out some minor flaws. The thing that caused Xiao Yang to be stunned was that Yuquan had corrected these flaws soon after he had identified them. Her comprehension speed caused him to involuntarily shake his head and sigh. This woman was really talented and intelligent. If she was properly groomed, she could become a top expert within the Central Plains in the future. Some perspiration surfaced on Yuquan's forehead after completing his palm technique, but her eyes were filled with joy. Her peripheral vision secretly glanced at Xiao Yang as she uncertainly asked, "Junior Pavilion Chief, how did Yuquan perform?" "Very good." Xiao Yang smiled and nodded. He hesitated for a moment after seeing the brilliance on Yuquan's little face. Finally, he said, there's something. I wonder if you are interested." "What is it?" Yuquan hurriedly asked when she heard his inquiry. Xiao Yang founded his chin. He studied Yu Quan before replying a moment later, "Be my disciple." Xiao Yang felt it was rather ridiculous in his heart when he uttered these words. It was unexpected that there would be a moment when he uttered these words, but this was not his intention. Yarrow Larrow valued Yu Quan's talent, but he did not wish to accept another disciple. Hence, he had given Xiao Yang this task. Being Xiao Yang's teacher, it wouldn't be out of ordinary for him to teach any disciple that Xiao Yang accepted. Yu Quan was immediately startled when she heard Xiao Yang's words. She lowered her head and did not speak. Xiao Yang became embarrassed when he saw Yu Quan's reaction. It was unexpected that he was receiving such treatment the first time he uttered these words. "Junior Pavilion Chief, can I be just a disciple in name?" Yu Quan's frowned and mused for a moment before she finally opened her mouth and asked. Yu Quan's words caused Xiao Yang to cough. Life was really too sad. With his current status, many people would be rushing over if he really wished to accept a disciple, yet this young lady in front of him was full of conditions. "All right, up to you." Xiao Yang helplessly shook his head. In any case, the one doing the teaching would not be him. Whether it was only in name or not, it was unrelated to him. A joyous smile immediately surfaced on Yu Quan's small face when she heard this. A disciple in name. Once she became strong enough in the future, this would not have a binding effect. The whatever ethics would not be much of a problem. Xiao Yang was naturally unaware of the thoughts of his newly accepted disciple in name in front of him. If he was aware of them, he would have thought about kicking her out. She was so young, but she was already thinking such thoughts. The space in the interior of the star realm suddenly fluctuated while Xiao Yang was helplessly shaking his head. A partially present spatial sound was spreading from the back mountain of the star realm. Xiao Yang was startled when he sensed this spatial fluctuation, but soon a joy surfaced in his eyes. The wormhole has been successfully built. Yu Quan, I will make a trip to the back mountain. I will leave for a period of time a couple of days later. You should go and find Grand Teacher. He will teach you. Xiao Yang turned his head and smiled as he informed Yu Quan. Yes, Junior Pavilion Chief. Yu Quan's small face immediately became a little bitter when she heard that Xiao Yang would be leaving for a period of time. She could only nod her head. You should not address me like this now. Xiao Yang involuntarily became eager when he saw the bitter expression on Yu Quan's small pretty face. He smiled and reprimanded her. Yes, teacher. Yu Quan's pretty face reddened when she saw the teasing expression on Xiao Yang's face. She could only address him in a whisper. Xiao Yang smiled in satisfaction when he heard her words. He rubbed Yu Quan's small head and smiled as he said, Do your best. I hope that you will have advanced to the Do Huang class the next time I return. Xiao Yang did not remain any longer after his words sounded. His body moved, and he turned into a ray of light. After which, he rushed to the back mountain where the spatial ripple was being emitted in front of many respectful gazes. Yu Quan lowered her little face after seeing Xiao Yang disappear into the distance. She spoke in a somewhat dispirited manner, It's over, I have become Junior Pavilion Chief's disciple. My chances will become a lot lower in the future. No, I cannot give up. My status as a disciple is only in name. I must persevere to the end. Yu Quan clenched her little fist when she spoke. After which, she gently grabbed at Xiao Yang's distant back. It appeared as though she wished to pull him into her palm. A teacher can also be groomed. As Xiao Yang hurried to the back mountain in the star realm, 100-foot large dark black hole slowly appeared on a stone platform atop a mountain. A wild and violent spatial force was erupting from within and swiftly spreading apart. Teacher, have you succeeded? Xiao Yang's body moved, and he appeared a short distance away from the wormhole. He studied the elderly figure and joyously inquired. Yarrow Larrow smiled and nodded. He immediately turned around, looked at Xiao Yang, and asked, Have you met that little girl? Xiao Yang naturally understood that Yarrow Larrow was referring to Yu Quan by that little girl. He bitterly smiled and nodded. He said, I have met her. Her talent is indeed extremely outstanding. If she is properly groomed, her achievements are bound to be extraordinary. Have you accepted her as a disciple? Yarrow Larrow softly laughed. His eyes were usually very picky. There were very few people who could catch his eye. This pickiness was enough to show just how great Yu Quan's talent was. Xiao Yang nodded once again. He roughly explained the matter earlier. When Yarrow Larrow heard that Yu Quan was willing to only be a disciple in name, he involuntarily laughed out loud. Immediately, he shook his head and laughed, It's fine if it is just in name. In any case, you need not worry about these matters. When will I set off? Xiao Yang nodded and quickly asked. I'm afraid that we must wait a few more days. The wormhole has been successfully built, but it is still not stable. Moreover, I think that we should find some helpers during these next few days. There will definitely be many experts from the Hall of Souls on the Profound Lion sect side. Hence, we should be fully prepared, Yarrow Larrow explained. Other helpers? Xiao Yang frowned. Those who could get involved must be experts who had reached the Dozun class. However, it was already not bad that the Falling Star Pavilion could take out over a dozen guest elders, but where could they find other people? Ha ha, have you forgotten the gathering ability of an alchemist? I have already got people to spread the news that we are inviting experts from all over. However, the condition is that one must have reached the Dozun class. The reward will be 3 Tier 8 medicinal pills each. The number of pill lightning colors that the Tier 8 medicinal pills possess will be determined by their respective strengths and their contributions. Yarrow Larrow cunningly smiled and explained. I believe that many people will come. At that time, you will lead them to the northwestern region of the continent, and then attack the Profound Lion sect to quickly end the war. Xiao Yang nodded and helplessly asked, isn't this a little too generous? 3 Tier 8 medicinal pills each? It would be quite a big sum should 20 to 30 people come. Relax, there should not be a problem as long as it is a medicinal pill below the 9th tier. Yarrow Larrow smiled in an unconcerned manner. With his current ability, his chances of successfully refining a Tier 8 medicinal pill were quite high. Hence, it might be a little troublesome, but he was still able to fork over these medicinal pills. Xiao Yang could only nod his head when he heard this. If he were to head to the northwestern region of the continent alone, he would end up quite tired even if he possessed the ability to turn things around. If there was a large group of helpers, things would undoubtedly be much more relaxed. In that case, we'll wait a couple more days. With the wormhole completely built, the star realm had suddenly become lively during the next few days. There was only one reason for the liveliness. It was because of the invitation that Yarrow Larrow had issued. Back then, Yarrow Larrow possessed the great ability of gathering people. Now that he had already advanced into the Ban Sheng class, his summoning ability had been strengthened. Hence, the entire Central Plains turned into an uproar once the invitation was issued. 3 Tier 8 medicinal pills possessed a powerful allure even for an elite Dozun. Things were still fine for the experts who belonged to specific sects. They did not dare to randomly accept any invitations due to the potential implications, but the Central Plains was filled with hidden experts. Naturally, it did not lack people who trained alone and possessed an extremely great strength. Due to not being restrained, they appeared to possess a greater freedom. Hence, they did not hesitate after receiving such an invitation. They hurried to the Falling Star Pavilion. Xiao Yang was extremely stunned at what Yarrow Larrow's invitation brought. Only then did he truly feel terrified by Yarrow Larrow's ability to gather people. However, he had somewhat underestimated himself. He was currently not some unknown person in the Central Plains. He was a Tier 8 alchemist guru. If this identity was displayed, people would naturally be courteous to him, but ever since Xiao Yang had arrived in the Central Plains, the factions that he had made contact with were extraordinary. Hence, he was not able to sense some of the benefits that this guru status brought him. The Falling Star Pavilion was lively for a full 3 days because of the invitation. Yarrow Larrow personally picked the people during these 3 days. He had chosen 20 experts from among those who had come because of the invitation. The strength of these 20 people were all at least 3-star Dozuns. 3 of them had even reached the 8th star of the Dozun level. They were a little weaker than Xiao Yang. Dozens of figures stood in air on the back mountain of the Star Realm 3 days later. Wave after wave of a vast and mighty aura spread out and rippled around. This area seemed to tremble because of the frightening pressure that was concentrated here. Everyone, I think that all of you are aware of the aim of this trip. Once we arrive at the northwestern region of the continent, I hope that everyone will listen to my commands. Xiao Yang stood in front of the many figures and spoke with a faint smile. Junior Pavilion Chief, please rest assured. A mere faction from a barbaric place is nothing. The 20 invited experts smiled and nodded when faced with Xiao Yang's words. Although Xiao Yang was younger than them, his powerful aura made them aware that this young man was stronger than all of them. Hence, they did not resist being ordered by him. Moreover, all of them were clearly aware of the identity of this young man. Junior Pavilion Chief need not worry. We have been invited by Pavilion Chief Yarrow. Naturally, we will not change our minds midway through. After all, we have only obtained half of our reward. A red-faced elder leading the group laughed with great strength. In that case, I will trouble old Mr. Hu. Xiao Yang cupped his hands to the red-faced elder. This person was the strongest among the 20 people that had been invited this time around. His strength had reached that of an 8-star Dozun. Moreover, it was worth mentioning that he and the other 2 experts who had reached the 8th star were triplets. The 3 of them had begun training when they were born. None of them had married and had a child even now. The 3 of them were just like Siamese babies that never betrayed each other. Hence, the cooperation between the 3 was extremely great. If they were to join hands, they would be able to fight even a 9-star elite Dozun. Xiao Yang's eyes slid to Yarrow Larrow after he spoke. He declared, we will set off now. These fellows have only come after being invited. There is no need to trust them. On the other hand, you can trust these 10 guest elders. They are much more aware of the news in the northwestern continent than you. Yarrow Larrow nodded. He pointed at the 10 elders in falling star pavilion robes around him as he softly spoke. Xiao Yang quietly sighed in his heart when he saw these 10 guest elders. Yarrow Larrow was allowing him to bring half of the falling star pavilion's strength with him. However, everything should be fine since Yarrow Larrow, who had reached the Ban Sheng class, was personally standing guard. In addition to these falling star pavilion's guest elders, Xiao Yang's side would have over 30 people on this journey. Moreover, they were all elite Dozuns. Xiao Yang felt a little unusual when he thought of this. Such a lineup was quite a powerful existence even in the Central Plains. It would likely not be difficult to even eliminate a large Central Plains faction like the Ice River Valley. In the face of such a lineup, it was likely that the Profound Lion sect would have difficulty obtaining the upper hand even with the support of the Hall of Souls. This time around, Xiao Yang's group had really forked out a bunch of capital. Yarrow Larrow grinned after seeing that everyone was prepared. He slowly stepped forward and gently waved his sleeve. The wormhole on the top of the mountain suddenly began to fluctuate after Yarrow Larrow waved his sleeve. A wild and violent spatial fluctuation spread from it as a thunder-like sound was emitted from the wormhole. This sound continuously reverberated over the surrounding sky. When the spatial ripple was emitted, the wormhole began to slowly rotate. Wave after wave of faint suction forces spread out of it. Xiao Yang, this is the wormhole scroll. It has yet to be fixed on the other side. After you arrive, all you need to do is find a safe place and open it. After which, it will be possible to form a tunnel that will remain at that spot forever. Yarrow Larrow flicked his finger. A black scroll flew towards Xiao Yang. It was covered in a frightening spatial strength. Xiao Yang carefully received the scroll and placed it in his storage ring. After which, he turned to the wormhole and inhaled a deep breath of air before suddenly waving his hand. Let's go. Xiao Yang was the first to move after his voice sounded. He turned into a black figure that flew into the dark black wormhole. Jiomar Empire, Big Brother, Second Brother, Kalin. I have returned. Xiao Yang curled his hand when his body entered the wormhole before slowly tightening it. A sandstorm blew over the endless red plains and cliffs. The crimson sun hung low in the distant sky, and a faint red light added a layer of pale red yarn over the ground, which vaguely had a blood color spreading over it. Few people were present on the red plains and cliffs. Only a wild wind continued to whistle and blow. At a certain moment, an intense spatial ripple suddenly materialized and a 100-foot-large spatial black hole slowly appeared. Waves of undulations rose the moment the spatial black hole appeared. Immediately, many figures stepped into the air before slowly walking away. They finally landed on the ground. There were around 30 people in this group, and all of them appeared inconspicuous. However, if someone with truly sharp senses approached, that person would be shocked to detect the vague but frightening pressure that was spreading from them. Is this the northwestern part of the continent? An elder with a red glow to his face swept his eyes around in surprise when he landed on the ground. After which, he turned his head to a black-clothed man in the crowd. From the black-clothed man's familiar face, this group was clearly Xiao Yang's group, who had hurried from the Falling Star Pavilion to the northwestern region of the continent. Xiao Yang shook his head slightly when he heard the eldest of the Hu brothers. The northwestern part of the continent was extremely vast. The area that he knew was limited to the Jiomar Empire and some empires around it. He naturally did not know where this place was. Junior Pavilion Chief, this place should be the northern part of the northwestern region. The wormhole the Pavilion Chief built does not possess an exact spatial mark, so it can only roughly send us to the northwest. A white-haired, white-clothed old man beside Xiao Yang looked around before finally taking out a map from his storage ring. He opened it, revealing a map that recorded the northwestern continent in detail. At this moment, half of the area on the map was occupied by a ferocious lion head. The other half was marked with a Yang character. This was likely the current territory of the Profound Lion sect and the Yang Alliance. Based on the intelligence that we have obtained, the northern part of this northwestern region has become the territory of the Profound Lion sect. In other words, we have been transported into the territory of the Profound Lion sect. However, it doesn't matter. There are not many experts from the Profound Lion sect in the northern part. Their main strength should currently be gathered at the borders of the Yang Alliance. The white-clothed elder voiced his thoughts. As long as we head southwest through a couple of passes, we should be able to reach the territory of the Yang Alliance. Xiao Yang nodded as he looked at the map. Their group had a total of 30 elite Dozuns. With this lineup, they could walk unopposed as long as they did not meet the elite forces of the Profound Lion sect or the Hall of Souls. Hence, it would not be difficult to reach the territory of the Yang Alliance. In that case, let's get moving. We can gather some information about the current news along the way. Try your best to suppress your auras. Listen to my orders and do not roam around randomly. Xiao Yang turned his head and looked to the distant southwest. After which, he waved his hand, and his toes pressed on the ground. His body turned into a ray of light that rushed away. The rushing sound of wind could be heard as the many figures followed close behind him. Xiao Yang's group rushed straight to the Yang Alliance to the southwest. They were flying over territory controlled by the Profound Lion sect. Hence, they naturally met some armies and experts from the Profound Lion sect that had been stationed along the way. However, these so-called experts were at the very most ordinary dozongs. They did not pose the slightest threat to Xiao Yang's group. Hence, they did not face any obstructions along the way, and they had also managed to inquire about the current events of the northwestern region from some of the captured experts belonging to the Profound Lion sect. Xiao Yang's heart sank when he learned of this information because the situation was deteriorating far faster than he had anticipated. The territory that the Yang Alliance had worked hard for many years in order to obtain had shrunk by a third. Moreover, this shrinking rate was increasing at a shocking speed. From this, one could tell what the powerful strength the Hall of Souls had used for this mission. From this information, Xiao Yang became aware that most of the experts in the current Yang Alliance were gathered in the mysterious Yellow Fortress at the mysterious Yellow Sky Stream. That place was the most important location to the Yang Alliance other than their main camp in the Jomar Empire. If this fortress fell, their defenses within a 1,000-kilometer radius would collapse, forcing the Yang Alliance back to the Jomar Empire. It would undoubtedly cause the bitter development of the Yang Alliance to go down the drain. Hence, Yang Alliance experts along with some other experts who had joined hands with the Yang Alliance to resist the Profound Lion sect, had all gathered at the mysterious Yellow Fortress. With the support of the Hall of Souls, the Profound Lion sect possessed a frightening strength that could eliminate most of the factions in the northwest. After some coercion, the Profound Lion sect had gained quite a number of experts. Hence, it was difficult to find a faction in the northwestern region of the continent who could fight with them. Even the Yang Alliance was at a disadvantage. The Profound Lion sect would naturally not give up the mysterious Yellow Fortress, which was a place that both parties must fight over. Based on what an expert, who had joined the Profound Lion sect, said, the current Profound Lion sect had also dispatched their true elite forces to the mysterious Yellow Sky Stream. From the looks of it, they were clearly intending on forcefully taking the mysterious Yellow Fortress to dominate this entire northwestern region of the continent. This bad news left Xiao Yang with no choice but to hasten his speed. He needed to arrive at the mysterious Yellow Fortress before the Profound Lion sect began to forcefully occupy it. Otherwise, the losses that the Yang Alliance would suffer would be too great. The mysterious Yellow Sky Stream was situated between two mountain ranges. Due to its natural terrain, it had become a natural fortress that was easy to defend and difficult to attack. The sky above the sky stream blew with an extremely chilling wind. Even an ordinary expert Do Huang would not dare to touch this wind. The two mountain ranges by the side of the fortress appeared to have been hacked in two by a large sharp axe, giving it an unusually smooth appearance. Additionally, the mountains were extremely imposing. Hence, even some expert Do Huangs were unable to fly over them. The mysterious Yellow Fortress stood at the most important spot of this mysterious Yellow Sky Stream. One could only pass through this spot within a 1,000-kilometer radius. Even some of the small neighboring countries would have to pass through this place to deal with each other. Being supported by such a unique and blessed environment, the importance of the mysterious Yellow Fortress was naturally something that need not be said. The Yang Alliance had paid a great price in order to obtain it. Outside of the mysterious Yellow Fortress was an endless grassy plain. If one stood on the fortress, one would be able to see every single activity within the grassy plains. However, the grassy plains were covered by a black fog at the moment. One could vaguely hear some deafening sounds being emitted. An evil aura spread and surged, causing the expressions of everyone within the mysterious Yellow Fortress to adopt a grave expression. Many buildings stood at the middle of the fortress, and there was an exceptionally majestic large building at the center. Quite a number of people were seated within the hall at this moment. However, no one spoke. The entire hall was covered in a solemn silence. Seated at the leader's seat in the hall was a red-dressed beautiful figure, who was leaning against the backrest in a somewhat lazy fashion. Her cold and bewitching face vaguely contained a fatigue. Her beautiful eyes, which were filled with an unusual enhancement, radiated the pressure and haughtiness of someone in a powerful position. This haughtiness did not pale even with the flow of time. Who else in the Yang Alliance other than the Queen Medusa from back then or the current Cai Lin, could possess such a prideful demeanor? These few years did not cause her to change even a little. Instead, she matured and her bewitching charm became denser. Everyone, the Profound Lion sect's army is pressing us. Today, it is merely a probing attack. However, it is likely that they will formally attack us in less than 3 days. Cai Lin's eyes slowly swept over the entire hall. Many familiar faces surfaced. The Ice Emperor Haibuodong, Jomar Empire's Pil King Jiu He, Fa Ma from back then. Currently, all of them appeared slightly older now. However, their auras were far from what they could compare with back then. Clearly, their strength had improved dramatically over the years. Everyone was quiet when they heard her words. A man seated on a wheelchair by the side softly sighed. He said, "The strength of the Profound Lion sect is too strong. Their Dozun class experts far surpass us. We are no match for them in a head-on confrontation. Xiao Ding involuntarily and bitterly laughed after he spoke. Any schemes would lose their effect in the face of absolute strength. It was the first time in all these years that he was feeling so helpless. The Yang Alliance had really met with some trouble. Let's go all out and fight if there is nothing we can do. We can neither advance nor retreat, so why don't we fight until the end? A man covered with a fierce aura beside Xiao Ding spoke with an ice-cold face. That appearance was a familiar one. It was surprisingly Xiao Yang's second brother, Xiao Li. The hearts of everyone in the hall sank after hearing Xiao Li's words. Could it be that it had really come to this stage? We have yet to reach that stage. Xiao Ding suddenly shook his head amid the silence. He slowly lifted his eyes and a faint smile was revealed on his face. He softly said, based on what the little fairy doctors group said, third brother should be hurrying back to the Yang Alliance. Clamor. Xiao Ding's sentence immediately caused the eyes of most of the people in the hall to be lifted. Even Cai Lin in the leader's seat suddenly focused her eyes on Xiao Ding. Xiao Ding's third brother. Everyone present, even those experts who had joined the Yang Alliance later on, had heard about him despite not having personally seen him because the young man called Xiao Yang was the true founder of the Yang Alliance. The young man from back then had created many miracles. Even though the Yang Alliance was managed by Kaelin during these years, the true spiritual leader of the Yang Alliance was still that young man called Xiao Yang in many people's hearts. Xiao Ding smiled as he watched the hall turn into an uproar because of this name. He exchanged glances with Xiao Li by the side. Both of their eyes contained a faint pride. This pride originated from their blood sibling, the young man called Xiao Yang. Third brother, it has been a long time since you left. It is time to return. Xiao Ding's eyes stared at the night sky outside of the hall and muttered in his heart. This video will end here.